Welcome to the 2 Acre Homestead Podcast. We're your host, Lisa.
And Kevin.
And on today's episode, we are talking about just say no, avoiding burnout on the homestead by just saying no. That's what's up next. Welcome to the 2 Acre Homestead. Come along with us on our journey from a small suburban homestead lifestyle to our new lifestyle, homesteading in the rural countryside of southern Arizona. We'll share with you our tips, tricks, successes, and failures from both our past suburban lifestyle to our new rural lifestyle, all on the 2 Acre Homestead. Welcome back. We're super happy to have you guys back with us. And this season of our podcast, we are talking about how to avoid burnout. And Lord knows we have had burnout here on our homestead many times.
Up in flames.
You burn, baby, burn. And, so we are trying to share with you guys some of the things that we have learned along the way when it comes to burnout. We are not experts at this. We certainly get burned out. We have a very young family and we are homesteading. So y'all, we're tired. We're just tired.
And sometimes we want to do all the things.
And you just have to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it.
Know your limits, right?
Exactly. So,
but before we do that, we like to just kind of banter a little bit back and forth on this topic. What's new in your neck of the woods?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see here. What's new in my neck of the woods? I have been working on my pantry. So we are in the middle of harvest season and I've been harvesting onions, not all of my onions, but most of my red onions have come in. So I'm drying those off. I've harvested all of my garlic. I'm harvesting green beans. Oh my goodness. I'm in the thick of green beans. Love green beans, but I hate harvesting them. Every time I have to harvest them, I'm just mad because I don't know what it is about harvesting green beans. They're just a pain.
They take time.
Maybe that's what it is.
Because I see you pick, I don't know, you have to cut the ends off and separate them, right? There's just a little bit of a process there. And
it's funny, I've tried over the years, I've tried the stringless green beans. And they just don't have the same taste to me as the ones with strings in them. So I don't know if it's a childhood thing, but so it's just an extra step. But this year we have tried the, and I can't think of the name of them. They're yellow. They're a yellow green bean and they don't have a string in them. And it seems like that might be a hit here on our homestead. The boys especially seem to like those. So
yes, we do.
Yeah. I'm in a house filled with boys. So, and then let's see, our youngest, we harvested the potatoes together. And that was a very, lackluster harvest is what we'll say. Exactly. It was terrible. If you follow us on YouTube, you're going to see a video coming out shortly where I am putting some meals together that come from the garden, and I'm going to be using my potatoes, and you'll see you'll get the visual of what I'm talking about. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, why not go over there and see what we're doing? But yeah, look us up on the YouTube under the 2 Acre Homestead. That's THE and then TWO 2-acre homestead. And
with
you
a
should
spiffy
find
new
us.
logo too.
Yes, we've been working on that. But before we get into that, tell us what's going on in your world, because that really is a part of your gig.
Yeah, I think one big thing has been tidying up the property outside, and especially having a family, and to help avoid burnout. Sometimes it's good to get help. So had some landscapers help with some things that took some time, like we have various trees to cut the field and so on. Those limbs were pretty low, and I got tired of ducking and trying not to hit them with my head. I mean, I didn't hit them with my head but anyway, it was hard to cut.
Yeah.
Hired a couple guys, and they did some hauls and so on. But anyway, tidying that up. And we've been wondering for the longest time, when are we going to get the monsoons?
Oh my goodness.
So, if you're not familiar where we are in southeastern Arizona, a few years back, they used to go by the dew point and, the calculations of when the monsoon started. And then, a few years back, then they just said it's just going to be, June 15 or something. They're just going to go by a date and that's it. Well, we hadn't gotten really much of any rain. And
it hasn't rained here since April.
Right.
And as of the recording of this is what?
We're like mid-July.
Right.
And just a few days ago, I had, within the week, let's say, I had read maybe by July 20th, we might get some rain. And I thought, well, that stinks, because surely by now we would get it. But anyway, last few days, several times we've gotten hit. And it seems like at night we're even getting, like just before the sun went down, it goes down, about 7:30-ish right now. And we were getting some lightning and so on. And I saw the clouds kind of starting to come this way. It was calm before that, so I took the opportunity to cut the grass. But that's just how it goes. So when you get that rain, that grass starts growing a lot, the field as well. So anyway, that's what I've been doing, just trying to take some time to tidy up things.
Do you love seafood? I do. I was raised on seafood. My dad would deep sea fish every month. And as the years have gone by, I've struggled to find that same crisp, fresh-tasting seafood. That is until now. Wild Alaskan Company brings sustainably caught fish off the coast of Alaska straight to your door. You'll get things like rockfish, halibut, coho salmon, cold smoked salmon, and so much more. So head on over to wildalaskancompany.com, and when you go to checkout, use the coupon code 2ACRE, that's TWOACRE, for $25 off your first order. So again, that's wildalaskancompany.com, and use the coupon code 2ACRE for $25 off your first order. And now, back to our podcast. We've been needing rain. It's just, I hear other people talk about, they've been in a drought. And I'm like, yeah, we've been in a drought. It's been really bad. Really, really bad.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So good things are clipping along. So, I really like this episode. This is a good topic in general, and I like how we're able to kind of talk in different aspects. But, when you think about it, many people feel like they need to do all the things, right? They need to just get 300 things done, and then tomorrow, right?
Right.
But the question is, you may want to get all those things done, but do you have to?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you looking to build a homestead from the ground up. Or maybe you're looking to build an off-grid dream home, a vacation home, or maybe just a piece of land to call your own. Visit yourcheapland.com to buy rural land in the wide open spaces of southwestern United States. When you visit yourcheapland.com, they're here to help you, and with their help, you can do this. You can take your dream of owning land and make it a reality. Most down payments are only $294, including the document fee. Remember, everyone qualifies for financing at yourcheapland.com. Head on over to yourcheapland.com and start making those dreams come true. And now, back to our podcast. Yeah, because especially I think when you're new to homesteading, there's just such a zeal and excitement for it. And you just want to, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to plant 300 tomatoes and can them all. And I'm going to raise goats, sheep. You just want to do it all.
I was up till 1 and 2 in the morning, right?
Yeah. I've seen that where people are up at they stay up until like 2 or 3 in the morning trying to can and preserve and just say no.
So I think frequently it comes back to remember we did an episode, what was our why, right? So maybe you're gardening because you want to grow healthy food. It's better than what you find in the store and all that and so on. But so you're going to do all that effort. You're going to take all that time and so on, but you're going to kill yourself in not getting sleep. That doesn't make sense, right?
No.
So you need to, so this season really is about balance, isn't it?
It is. Ultimately,
Right.
That's what we're talking about, is about being balanced, not burning yourself out, and how to take your time with homesteading.
Mm-hmm.
Homesteading is, and I hate to use this because so many people use and abuse this statement, but it's a journey. It's not a race. It's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So it really makes you prioritize, makes you really look at what's important.
Right. Yep. So let's take a look at just a few things, right? Let's not because we're talking about not complicating things. Let's look at maybe just a few things. So if we talk about prioritize, what is your priority for yourself? If you're married, for you and your spouse, if you have kids, involving them, what's your priority? Is it to have good, healthy food? Whether that's simply vegetables or are you growing meat? What types of things are you doing on your homestead, right? What's important? You can really fall into a trap, right? You can watch all these, YouTube videos. You could read articles and so on and start going down a path of maybe adding a bunch of things that maybe don't fall into what are let's just say top 3, top 5 things that make sense for you and your family, why you're homesteading, right? So what does it boil down to? Well, what's important? Is it time? Is it the cost of things? Is it going to improve your health? So those are some good questions that you can ask yourself. You can ask your spouse. You can get some good feedback. And you can even knock heads, so to speak, and put a list together.
Oh, we love making lists.
And I think one thing that's helped us, we just did this recently for something. I think what we like to do, it's kind of fun too, is we'll say, hey, why don't we each get a sheet of paper and write down the top, 3 things or 5 things, why this is important or what you think. And it's interesting because, we kind of hide our papers, right? We write our things down. And then usually I'll say, okay, let me look at what you've got. And I'll look. And sometimes we have maybe a couple things out of 5 that match. But then sometimes we differ a little bit. But it's good because then you can kind of reconcile.
Exactly.
Right? And then you can kind of get maybe a different perspective on some things. Why did you put that one down? And then you talk about it, right? And then you just kind of level set from there. And then you go, okay, this is our plan, right? And go from there. So easy to get bogged down, easy to do this because it looked cool because you saw, some glam
or you
video.
saw something on Pinterest. I don't know if Pinterest is still a thing.
Well, I'm a guy. I don't. Well, there's guys out there. I don't. Anyway, I don't.
You don't.
I don't Pinterest. So, it's not my mantras. But anyways, so that's a good thing. Prioritize.
Yes.
Because especially if it's better to do it ahead of time, but especially if you are starting to feel like you're getting burned out. If you feel like you've got more anxiety, if you feel like you've got less time, right? Take a pause and do that exercise. And like I said, if you're a couple, you can write those things down and come together, and you'd be surprised at how you might make a good plan.
So it's really important to know that why. Why are you doing this? Revisit the why. It's really important for people to do that. And then I would say, along with the prioritizing, most people do this at the beginning of the year. They set goals, but really you can do that at any time of the year. Just sit down and say, what is it that I want to accomplish within the next 6 months? Do I need to accomplish everything that's on my list? Is it necessary? What are the things that are most important? Is it health? Is it, I can't even think of anything else, but, is it health? Is it, peace of mind? Is it just, maybe you want a homestead because you culinarily speaking, just love homegrown food. There's nothing wrong with that, but know your why, prioritize based on your why you're doing this, and stay sharp with that, and let everything else go. Don't let other people sway you into thinking that you need to do X, Y, and Z, or that your garden needs to look like, like your garden needs to look like, something that's come out of a magazine. Because I can guarantee you, people who have gardens that look like it's come out of a magazine, most of the times they have other people helping them. And if it's just you and you by yourself doing a garden, or maybe you and one other person doing your garden, it's not going to look like that. So do what you can, prioritize, and stick to what your priorities are.
And I have news for you. Next to the camera shot, there's weeds, there's rusted tools that they left out. You know what I mean? So anyway.
Yeah. Don't be fooled by the things you see on social media.
Yep. Now here's another thing. And I think this is an interesting thing to mention is don't fall into doomsday prepping. Okay. Now, that being said, it is good to be prepared in a case of an emergency. We've seen a lot of crazy things over the last few years.
And we'll see more.
Supply chain issues or whatever, insert whatever here, or something affected crops because of weather or whatever. Right.
And we know we're going to see more because the Bible says we're going to see more.
Right.
So these aren't, if you're a Bible reader, then this is not, we're not saying anything new.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but if there's a disaster, a wildfire, or flooding, or something that happens, supply chain issues, your grocery store doesn't have meat or whatever, and it affects you, if you sit there and say, well, God's just going to take care of me and I'm just going to sit here and wait, and it's not going to fall to the sky, and
No.
things happen, right? So, it's a good thing to plan. So, for example, we've talked about having some stores of things.
We have
It can
lots
be
of stores.
food.
Mm-hmm.
It can be medical supplies. It can be things like toilet paper. Oh, there were toilet paper shortages, right? And I know somebody in the family that, all they could buy was a big, giant one roll of industrial toilet paper was a 5,000 sheet roll, or I have no idea what it was. That's all they could buy.
Mm-hmm.
But if let's just say you don't do this now and you say, hey, let me get 3 months supply of water on hand, or toilet paper or something, and that's the thing that you're doing now that you didn't do before, then you're ahead of the game, right? There's things like, and I know we've practiced this, it was recommended that we put a go bag together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I purchased some bigger, you can buy them already pre-filled with things, but you can buy things like a little solar powered radio and maybe some solar blankets and, matches, and put, extra credit cards, like an extra copy, and copies of like a medical directive in case there's an emergency and you have to go in the hospital, extra keys, right? So those types of things, having a go bag if there's a natural disaster, if there's civil unrest, something comes up like that, and you determine, hey, family, we got to get out of here, we got an hour, and then you've already talked about, okay, so this is our number one place we're going to go to. You have an evacuation plan. And then if you've also had a plan B, like, well, hey, there's a fire over there, so we're going to go to plan B, right? You have those things already planned out. You've already practiced it. The family knows. It's that much easier when that situation happens.
Right.
So don't fall into the doomsday prepping, like, when power grid goes down and all that. I mean, you can only do so much, right?
And, really, if you're homesteading, how can I put this? Most homesteaders are not doomsday preppers. And I think the saying goes, most homesteaders are preppers, but doomsday preppers are not homesteaders. And it's because it goes back to the why again, because what's your why? Well, most homesteaders want to produce their own food because you want to be in control of your food. You want good, healthy food. You have a different priority. Whereas a person who is doomsday prepping, they're prepping for the end of the world. And, from our faith, you can't talk about this subject without, we're going to see things through the lens of our faith. And, in my mind, I've always said, my home can jars aren't going to protect me from Armageddon. It's just, God's angels are pretty powerful. They're pretty powerful spirit creatures. And, my jars of home canned green beans just aren't gonna, they're not gonna matter much. But, but by, if you're trying to doomsday prep, so to speak, that's exhausting in and of itself because of just the amount of emotion and the adrenaline and the worry and there's only so much you can do. At some particular point in time, you do what you can. And like what you said, and then, you just kind of have to have faith that those things will be taken care of. But you do what you can, but don't overdo it either. Because that will really cause burnout. Because the amount of emotion that goes into that is just, it's exhausting.
Yeah. And you could make such a list of all these things that you could get into just on that topic, right? I'm not going to say, so what I'm trying to say about, let's see, living off grid, right? I think somebody made a comment one time about living off grid, and well, as for us as homesteaders, we're not living off grid. That's not our desire, right?
It would be cool.
It'd be interesting, but I'm
if
just
we were in our early
use
20s.
an example, and this is just me. This is my opinion, and I'm not saying you should have this opinion, but out there, anybody listening. But I did some research on solar, what it would take to have a solar, big kind of an array, and the batteries that go along with it, and the solar chargers, and all these different things, right? All the different pieces of equipment. I thought, wow, this is complicated, and no wonder sometimes it can get expensive, and it can take 20 years sometimes to pay it off, right?
We've known people who have they wind up chasing, instead of homesteading, they're chasing their solar array,
right.
And their solar setup because, it's just too much.
It's too much. Well, it's a lot, right? And then there's maintenance. Whatever you do, there's maintenance, there's upkeep, and so on. So I'm not saying don't do it, but maybe there's an advantage to having a little bit of something that can generate, right? But if you find, I know a guy that he spent $20,000-$30,000, and every day he's checking on his phone, and I saved 50 cents a kilowatt hour and all this kind of stuff, and he was proud of it, but he knew it was going to take 20 some years to pay that thing off. I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So anyways, there's maintenance and everything. So, that list can go, you could just wear yourself out just keeping up on all those things. 'Cause there's a whole list of this, that, and the other products. And what are you going to do? I saw a video one time. Somebody had all these, giant things of water under a bed, and they had to make the bed frame higher just to, really, you're going to have 300, 400, 500 gallons of water under your bed at home? You know what I mean? So anyway.
Yeah.
I'm getting exhausted just thinking about it.
I know. And again, it goes back to the why. It really does go back to what is your why. And that's why when we first started this podcast, that was one of the very first episodes we did, was what was our why? Why did we do this? Because homesteading is not a lifestyle that's very typical. Most people would rather not, because they see it as a lot of work. So you kind of have to know what your why is. And, and for the record, we're not saying don't be a doomsday prepper. We're not saying don't live off grid. I think we brought up living off grid because we recently had a comment from a listener say that we live off grid, and we both looked at each other and we're like, at what point in time did we say that?
Yeah, homesteading doesn't really.
We're very much on the grid. But do we have things, in the event that the grid does go down?
Sure, we have flashlights. We have,
and we have solar powered generator
charger.
Yeah. I mean, so we have things in place, and it's like, I think I said it one time on a YouTube video, I have a year's worth, almost 2 years worth of food that's in a section of our house, an area where we keep that food stored. I don't show that to the public, but we do have that. And that's just in case, because we've all lived through COVID. And, if the last few years haven't taught us anything, I don't know what's going to teach you. We do have, food storage. We have about I think it's like a year and a half worth of food that we have, sitting stored. We do use it. It doesn't just sit there and collect dust, but we do use it. But we are prepared, but what we're trying to say is don't make being a prepper, or don't make being, we're going to live off of grid and we're going to live off grid and we're going to doomsday prep. You will exhaust yourself emotionally, your adrenaline, your thinking, all of those things is just going to exhaust you and you're going to burn out. Most people who go down that path do burn out because it's exhausting. Yeah, totally.
Sounds good. Okay. And then there's one more thing that we wrote down. Interesting that the way we wrote this down, keep things small and strong.
I thought that was interesting that you said it that way. Keep things small and strong. And I think, because you just want to keep the smaller your operation is, the stronger it's going to be, the more control you have over your operations. And I'm saying operations as in your homestead operations. For example, your animal chores. What's the distance between you and your animals? The actual walking distance between you and your animals. What is how many animals do you have on your homestead? Or how big is your garden? If it's lean and mean, it's small and strong. It's, maybe you only have a flock of 7 chickens, 7 hens. But man, I tell you what, those hens, they produce 6 and 7 eggs every single day. That's a lean, mean working machine right there.
Right. Let me just jump in on that for example. So
yeah, since this was your idea.
Yeah. So let's take chickens for an example, and let's take laying hens for an example. Okay. It goes back to, what do you need for you and your spouse, you and your family, right? Unless, and I'm not talking about, you run a CSA and you want to start, for the whole neighborhood, you want to start making money on this and so on, and you want to sell it at farmers markets, right?
You're not going to make any money on 7 chickens.
Okay, not on 7 chickens, but I'm just talking about in general. Let's just take that as an example, right? So let's say you decide for you and your family 7 chickens. If they were to lay about 6, 7 eggs every day when things are going well, 49 eggs a week, right? Let's just say you're like, okay, that's good for me because we bake bread and other things and we can, freeze some of it or whatever. And you like eating eggs a lot, right? Okay.
I can tell you cook. Sorry. I didn't mean to distract you. Anyway.
we have a rule. When you cook, I clean, and I clean a lot. So anyways.
Ladies, take notes.
So let's say you determine 7's good for your family, right? So principle, when you think about that, is, okay, so get the type of chicken that's going to produce well, like a leghorn, right? We know leghorns are good producers. We
my goodness. Yeah,
they are. A few different varieties right now. We still have 2 leghorns that are older. They're at the end of their days, let's say, as far
very
as laying.
much.
But I wish we had more leghorns.
Yeah, I do
I like
too.
having the variety of different, color eggs and whatever, but it's not about that. If it's more about production. So I think if we were to now introduce some more hens on the homestead, I think leghorns would be a big contender, right?
For sure.
So anyway, 7 hens might be good for you. Whatever, 20 doesn't, whatever that amount is, because if you're going to do meat birds and so on, makes me think of meat birds too, because we have culled quite a few at one time to provide meat.
Yeah.
But then I think we've learned too, because we've had differing amounts that we've culled at one time over a weekend or over one day. And sometimes we've asked ourselves, did we do too many for what we need? So it just boils down to, what is really your need, right? Because you could think, for instance, meat birds, you could say, well, if we eat 1 chicken a week, or how many chickens do you eat? 1 a week, 2 a week for your family? How many weeks out do you want to be? Then you go back to, okay, so If you do something like a Cornish cross, it takes 8 weeks or so. Then you just figure out, okay, so how many do I need? How long is it going to take? Anyway, you just start from there, right? Don't go crazy.
Yeah, don't. So I think
how much you have.
I think in a nutshell, what you're trying to say is don't try to produce more than what's necessary.
Yeah, because, I watch these videos on these guys that do the chicken tractors and so on, and I was starting to go down that road. I was going to build the chicken tractors and so on, but I think part of it for me was, do we really need that many on our homestead? So by keeping it smaller, it's really been beneficial, because
it has, actually.
When you go back to what you said, feeding them, watering them every day, right? And then collecting the eggs and so on. Just that general upkeep, it's a lot more manageable. If we would have gone the other way, cause more stress, right? Again, everything takes maintenance, time, and so on. Keep it small, or keep it in line with what your needs are.
Yeah. I mean, because on the subject of the chickens, I like the system that we have right now. And for those of you who are listeners, I'll probably go more in depth on this subject of how we keep our chickens lean and mean, so to speak, on our homestead. But, and why we don't raise meat chickens. I'm saying that with air quotes, like the Cornish cross or the Red Rangers. We don't raise those anymore here on our homestead. And when I send out our newsletter, I'll explain why. But basically what we do is we have dual purpose birds, and we have really sort of gone back in time on how we run our chickens and how we manage our chickens. We manage it most like, I don't know, I kind of got tongue tied there, but we run it like our grandparents did. Because I think most people will know, the story of, grandma goes out there and she slaughters a chicken and she cooks it up in the pot for the family for the dinner. And there's something to be said about having just like, a few birds that you are going to process. I'm not going to certainly go out there once a week and slaughter a bird, but but we may process like 5 or 6 birds at one go. And then we're done. And we don't eat chicken every week either. So the needs of our family are different from maybe the needs of somebody else's family, because we eat a wide variety of meats here on our homestead. But, most of the meats that we eat, with the exception of beef, is produced here on our homestead. Or if it's not produced on our homestead, we source it from very, very, very local farms. Yeah, within like a 30-mile radius of our house. So extremely local. But we keep a lean, mean running machine with our chickens.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier for us.
It is. And it goes back to balance, right? We're talking about balance really this season. So keep things simple. What is that saying? Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple.
I'm not calling any of you stupid, but
it
sticks anyway.
Yeah.
So I think these have been some really good things that we could talk about. Don't do all the things, right? Take a deep breath, take a vacation, right? Just sit with your cup of coffee or whatever helps you relax too. Gotta have time for that.
And to all of you who are gardening out there, we've said this before in the past, but make sure you have a space in your garden where you can just sit down with your cup of coffee and listen to the sounds of your garden in the morning. Do nothing. Harvest nothing. Water nothing. Just enjoy the outside. Enjoy the surroundings. Take a good deep breath of fresh air, provided it's not smoky or anything like that. But, take a deep breath, look around you, and appreciate the things that are around you. That just in and of itself helps with burnout.
It
Just a small thing, but it helps.
And when you have that urge to add one more thing to that list,
just say no.
All right. Well, from all of us here, we want to thank you again for supporting us. And be sure to check out the blog that Lisa mentioned. And from all of us here in our family, to all of you out there,
Stay safe out there.
and happy homesteading.